This morning we started off by talking about success and what is it. And I shared with you success is three things. Let's review, okay, for a second. I said success is first of all what? Knowing my purpose in life. Secondly, growing to my maximum potential. And thirdly, sowing seeds that benefit others. We talked about the foundation of leadership, and success is relationships, the ability to get along with people. I shared with you 2 or 3 people principles. I shared with you 2 or 3 people practices. What I have discovered, as well as you have discovered, is the fact, again, to be successful, you've got to be able to get along with people. Now, how many of you raise your hand and say, John, I've got this all covered. I know now that I'm tremendous with my relationship skills. I'm ready to learn the second thing. You ready, huh? You ready? Are you ready to go to the second one, or you want me to stay on relationships a while? You all right? You've got this relationship thing down, correct? Okay. And I know when you get the book, Winning with People and 25 Ways to Win with People, I know that you're not getting it for yourself, but you're getting it for somebody who really needs that book, right? Okay? All right. Makes me feel better. All right. In this session, I would like to talk to you about equipping people. How do you and I train and develop and equip people? Now, here's why this is so important. And by the way, I had people ask me during the break about what are my best equipping books. My best equipping books are books such as The 17 Laws of Teamwork, The 17 Qualities of a Team Player, Developing the Leaders Around You. Those are books that really help you in developing a team. So let's get started. Teamwork makes the dream work. So therefore, when people come to me and they say something like, I have this dream, I would like to accomplish this. Boy, would I really want to build a company. I want to build my business. I want to help people. Whenever they come up and they begin to talk to me about their dream, I always listen with interest because I want your dreams to come true. I want your dreams to come true, your dreams to come true. But when I ask them and I listen with interest, one of the first questions I ask them when I have an opportunity is, talk to me about the team that you have. Because here's what I've discovered. Let me define a nightmare. A nightmare is a big dream and a bad team. Are you with me? In other words, from a 1 to a 10, if you have a 10 dream and you have about a 2 team, you're in trouble. And I see it happen all the time. Now, here's the way that it should work. Here's the way this should truly work in your life and in my life. In the beginning, the dream is always bigger than the team. It's always better than the team because we get the dream first. Isn't that true? So therefore, there's nothing wrong with having your dream a little bit bigger and a little bit better than your team. Where the problem is if your dream keeps growing, but your team doesn't. So what you've got to do is you've got to ask yourself a very simple question. Does my team match my dream? If from a 1 to a 10, again, as I share with you, I have a 10 dream, but I have about a 2 or 3 team, let me tell you something. Your dream will only be realized based upon the team that you have around you. One of the laws and the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and I'm kind of interested, would there be some people that have that book? How many of you would have my book? I wrote a book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. If you have that book, I didn't ask you if you read it, okay? I didn't do that. I'm not that bold, okay? But if you have that book, would you raise your hand? Huh? Oh, a lot of you. Whoa, wow, my mother would be proud, okay? Okay. In the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of the laws is the law of the inner circle. The law of the inner circle says those who are closest to you determine the level of your success. That's a tremendous law. In other words, if you've got 3 or 4 people that are real close to you, around you in your business, they're going to make you or break you. They're going to bless you or curse you. Those people that are closest to you, they are either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. So your ability to develop a team around you is very important to the success of realizing your dream. Now let me share with you how this has all evolved in the last 3 decades. In the 1980s, in business, the key word was management. Peter Drucker, the great management guru, was writing books on management, and people were saying, I've got to learn how to manage my company. I've got to learn how to manage my business. I've got to learn how to manage myself. And in the 1980s, management was the key word. I had the privilege in the 1980s of having Peter Drucker mentor me. And management was a very important word. But in the 1990s, business people started going from the word management and books on management to books on leadership. And here's why. Management assumes everything will stay the same. Leadership assumes everything will change. They're 2 totally different animals. And in the 80s, when things were more stable, people said, I've got to manage this. I've got to make sure that I have control over it. In the 90s, all of a sudden, they said, my goodness, it's getting out of control. I've got to learn to lead. I've got to get out in front of it. So leadership became the key word of the 1990s, and that's when I kind of got onto the scene and started writing leadership books and helping Fortune 500 companies really get their hands around how do you lead a company. Now, as we've gone into the 21st century, this decade, we've gone from leadership to team leadership. The key word now, every time almost in the States that I'm asked to co-speak, they would say, John, talk to us about how do you develop a team of leaders? How do you develop a leadership team? And the reason for that is because we now realize that one person cannot lead effectively everything. Let me explain. About 6 years ago, when I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, for 2 years in the States, I lectured all over the country on that subject, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. What that book did is it helped people understand that if you're going to lead, you've got to be able to do more than just one thing. You see, people used to think that leadership was vision, so they would say, well, if you can cast a vision, you're a good leader. Well, all of a sudden they realized, well, you have to be able to cast a vision, but you have to be able to do 20 other things too. So when I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, it became very apparent that if you're going to lead effectively, one of the first things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to develop a team of leaders. You're going to have to develop a leadership team. For example, I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and 5 of the 21 laws I am average or less in. Okay? For example, one of the laws that I'm below average in is the law of navigation. The law of navigation says anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart a course. I am not a good navigator. I'm big picture. I don't want to do the day-to-day navigation. I've got people around me that do all the day-to-day stuff, but I don't want to do that. I'm not a very good leader. And so therefore, I have all of my companies in one building in Atlanta, Georgia. And so therefore, when we outgrew our building and we had to go to another building, I stood up in front of all 3 companies. I brought them all together and said, we're going to have to relocate over the next 6 months to another building here in the city. And I said, you know that I'm not good at navigation. I'm not a navigator. So I brought Frank up and I said, Frank will be doing the navigating. And as soon as all the companies realized I wouldn't be doing the navigating, they started to clap and cheer, and they're saying, yay, oh good. Yeah, wow, thank God, John's not going to lead us here. Woo! We were worried. We figured we'd be in the ditch with him. So I brought Frank up and I said, now Frank's going to do the navigating. He's going to do the leading. I'm not going to do the leading. Now, I own the companies. I'm the founder. Doesn't matter. I'm not a good navigator. See, you've got to know what you do well. You've got to know see, as a leader, you don't get paid to carry the ball. You get paid to know who to give the ball to. And so I said, Frank, I'm going to give you the ball. You're a better navigator. You're a 10 on navigation. I'm a 1. So Frank will be navigating. So I brought Frank up. Everybody clapped. I said, now, Frank, what that means is I'll follow you. See, leaders are not only leaders are also followers. And I said, because he's a better leader than I am in navigation, I said, Frank, I'll follow you. And I said, is there anything you want me to do in helping us in relocation? He said, yes. He said, I have one request. I said, what is it? He said, promise not to come to any of our meetings. And I raised my right hand and said, okay, I promise. I won't come to any of your meetings. And everybody cheered. Oh, thank God, he's not coming to the meetings. Okay, we're going to be okay. And I didn't. I didn't do anything. The day we moved into the offices, Frank picked me up in the car, took me to to our new building, and walked me in and said, "This is your office. Thank you very much." Now, why didn't I lead that effort? Because I'm not any good at that area. Now, you see, when I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, all of a sudden people began to realize you can't do all 21 things well. You're good, but you're not that good. In fact, I was speaking to 200 CEOs of companies in the States. They had this President's Day, and it was just CEOs and me, and I was talking to 200 CEOs, and one of the things I told them is, I said, you need to go back to your people and stand up in front of them and tell them the things you're not good at. And it really bothered them. You could tell there was real emotional pushback. I could tell that they don't like this, you know. And I said, you need to go back and explain your weaknesses to your people. You need to get up in front and say, I'm not any good at this. And so I'm signing books during the break, and this one CEO, he just stands right beside me. I mean, he won't go away. He just stands there, and I'm trying to sign books. And finally I looked at him. I knew he wanted to talk to me. I said, can I help you? He said, yeah, but I got to talk to you private. And so he pulls me over in the corner of the room and kind of whispers to me. He says, you know, what you said in the last session really bothered me. And you said we were supposed to go home and tell people what our weaknesses are, and I don't think you should let people know what your weaknesses are. You got to lead from strength and never let them see you blink and show your strong side. And gave me this kind of pep talk like I never heard any of this stuff. And you know what I mean? I'm listening. Okay. Finally, he's done. I put my arm around him. I said, friend, my name is John. I said, you're operating on a false assumption. He said, what's that? What's the false assumption? What's the false assumption? I said, you're assuming your people don't know your weaknesses. I said, they already know what you don't do well. They talk about it all the time. I said, the reason I ask you to go back and share with them what your weaknesses are so that it would relieve them. It would be like, oh, he knows. Oh, this is very good. We don't have to tell him. We don't have to tell him. So I'm doing this lecture, this series of lectures on the 21 Laws of Leadership throughout the states. And I'm signing books, and I have this kid who just gets his MBA degree. He comes up and he brings the book, and so I'm signing the book, and he's very intense. He says, look at me. I said, okay. Yeah. He said, I know this is the 21 Laws of Leadership conference. I understand that. But he said, I'm just getting my MBA, and I don't have a lot of time. I thought the kid needs a lesson on perspective. He said, I don't have a lot of time. So he said, listen to me very carefully. And he holds up his index finger. He says, okay, all this stuff. What's the one thing I need to know to be a great leader? And I thought, oh my goodness. So I sucked air and got all my energy and raised my body up to his. And I said, the one thing you need to know to be a great leader is that there's more than one thing you need to know to be a great leader. There's 21 things you need to know to be a great leader. So sit down and shut up and take notes, would you? You see, he was making the mistake that we all make, and that is the fact that we can do it all. We can't do it all. There's not one thing. There's 21 things, and the only way that you're ever going to do this is develop a leadership team. And I'm going to tell you how to develop a leadership team. If the people on the front row, for example, were my leadership team, we would all sit down, and over a period of 21 weeks, each week we'd read one law of leadership. We'd read it together. In fact, what I would do is I'd say, you get week 1, you teach week 2, you teach law 3, you teach law 4, and we just sit in a group and we teach the laws, and after we're done teaching the 21 laws of leadership, reading it and teaching it to each other and sitting around a group, then what we would do is we would all personally evaluate ourselves on the 21 laws from a 1 to a 10. So on the law of navigation, I'd say I'm a 1. And after everybody personally, after everybody personally evaluates themselves, then they get up in front of the group and they share their evaluation of themselves to the rest of the group. But the rest of the group, before they do that, evaluates each other too. So therefore, when we go around, for example, if I say I'm a 10 in the law of navigation and the rest of the group says I'm a 2, I've misread myself. Are you with me? So then what I do is everybody knows everybody's number on all the laws. So then what you do is if, for example, if it's a law of navigation, I'm a 1 and Frank's a number 10, then what we do is when we have to navigate something in our company, Frank leads. And I get in the group and I follow and do my best to follow Frank because Frank's the leader. So what we do is this is how you develop team leadership. And as I shared with you earlier, teamwork makes the dream work. Here's the key. As a leader, being successful, you've got to be able to take the vision, the dream, and you've got to be able to take it from me to we. In other words, you've got to get buy-in of the dream. One of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership is the law of buy-in. And the law of buy-in says that people buy into the leader before they buy into the dream or to the vision. And that's very true. So you've got to have buy-in. They've got to buy into you. They've got to buy into the dream. And then you've got to share the load with the leaders. And here's why you have to share the load. This is why you've got to develop teams. This is why you've got to equip people. In the 17 laws of teamwork, one of the laws of teamwork is the law of significance. The law of significance says 1 is too small of a number to achieve greatness. The law of significance says to you and me that it's impossible on our own, by ourselves, to do something significant. Let me give you this challenge. In the history of mankind, think about it. Name one person without the help of anyone else, by himself or by herself, without anyone else's help, ever achieve something significant for mankind. I was in Joburg, South Africa, speaking to about 10,000 business leaders, and all I was doing all day long is teaching the laws of teamwork. And I looked at these 10,000 people, and I threw out that challenge in Joburg. I said, name one person by himself or by herself, without the help of anyone else, has ever done something significant for mankind. And as soon as I said it, some guy up in that balcony, it's like he was waiting for this question all his life. Some guy in the balcony looked, I said, Charles Lindbergh, he crossed the Atlantic Ocean in a plane all by himself. And I said, well, yeah, he did go across the Atlantic by himself. And everybody clapped and cheered. They thought he got one. But I said, sir, did you know that Ryan Aeronautical Engineering designed and built the plane? That's hope. It's hard to fly across the Atlantic like this. After a while, you just get tired. And I said, sir, did you know that 10 millionaires financed the trip? Any other suggestions? You see, 1's too small of a number to achieve greatness. In the States, I don't know if they do this in Malaysia, but in States, when somebody has been successful financially, a lot of times they like to go around and introduce themselves as a self-made man. Do they do this in Malaysia? Yeah, it comes to, hi, I'm a self-made man. And whenever they tell me they're a self-made man, I always look at them and say, oh, I am so sorry. Oh, I hate that. So what do you mean you're sorry? I said, I'm so sorry. Because you see, if you've made everything yourself, you haven't made much. I keep with me this card. It's called The Indispensable Man, and it sums it up for me. It says, sometime when you're feeling important, and sometime when your ego's on bloom, and sometime when you take it for granted that you're the most qualified person in a room. And sometime when you feel that your going would leave an unfillable hole, just follow the simple instruction and see how it humbles your soul. Take a bucket and fill it with water. Put your hand in it up to the wrist. Pull it out, and the hole that's remaining is the measure of how much you'll be missed. You may splash all you please when you enter, and you can stir up the water galore, but stop and you'll find in a moment that it looks quite the same as before. The moral of this quaint example is do the best that you can, be proud of yourself, but remember, there's no indispensable man. And there isn't. I'm not, and you're not. So if you're going to do something significant, you've got to do it with others. You've got to develop a leadership team. You've got to develop a team around you. Let me explain it this way. In the 17 laws of teamwork, one of the laws of teamwork is the law of Mount Everest. The law of Mount Everest says, as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. The law of Mount Everest says that the bigger the challenge you have before you, the better team you need to have around you. So if you've got a big challenge in front of you, you've got to get yourself a good team around you. If you're going to climb Mount Everest, you've got to have a good climbing team. It's the biggest mountain in the world. You just can't climb that by yourself. I mean, how foolish would I be if I looked at you and said, boy, I'm having a great time here in KL today, and you know what I'm going to do? As soon as I'm done speaking today, I'm going to jump on a plane and I'm going to fly to Nepal. And I've always wanted to climb Mount Everest, so I've got my shorts and my sneakers. And I've got a couple days before the weekend, and I just thought I would just kind of run over there and run up on the top of Mount Everest and, plant a flag, you know what I mean, and take a picture and go back down. You say, that's the dumbest man I've ever heard. He can't climb Mount Everest by himself, which I can't. You see, that's like a person with a big dream acting like they don't need people around them. I have something else I want to share with you. I love this. This is the story of a bricklayer who tried to move 500 pounds of bricks from the top of a four-story building to the sidewalk below. And the problem is he tried to do it all by himself. And what I have here are his own words taken off of his insurance claim form. He said it would have taken too long to carry the bricks down by hand. So I decided to put them in a barrel and lower them by a pulley which I'd fastened to the top of the building. So after tying the rope securely at ground level, I then went up to the top of the building. I fastened the rope around the barrel, loaded it with bricks, and then I swung it out over the sidewalk for the descent. Then I went down to the sidewalk and I untied the rope, holding it securely to guide the barrel down slowly. But since I weigh only 140 pounds, the 500-pound load jerked me from the ground so quick that I didn't have time to think of letting go of the rope. So as I passed between the second and third floor, I met the barrel coming down. And this accounts for the bruises and the lacerations on my upper body. I held tightly to the rope until I reached the top, where my hand became jammed in the pulley. This accounts for my broken thumb. At the same time, however, the barrel hit the sidewalk with a bang, and the bottom fell out. With the weight of the bricks gone, the barrel weighed only 40 pounds. Thus, my 140-pound body began a swift descent, and I met the empty barrel coming up. This accounts for my broken ankle. Slowed only slightly, I continued the descent and landed on the pile of bricks. This accounts for my sprained back and broken collarbone. Now, this next sentence is my favorite in the whole story. At this point, I lost my presence of mind completely. I'd like to debate that one. At this point, he said, I lost my presence of mind completely, and I let go of the rope. And the empty barrel came crashing down on me. This accounts for my head injuries. And as for the last question on your insurance claim form, what would you do if the same situation arose again? Please be advised, I'm finished trying to do the job all by myself. Every time I hear that funny story, I think of people who literally try to do the job all by themselves. So what I want to do is, if we're going to develop a leadership team, we have to know how to develop a leadership team. We have to know how to find and how to develop leaders. Does that make sense? So, let's go. I was doing a major conference in the States, and we were doing a Q&A period of time, and it was a Chick-fil-A. It's a major restaurant company in the States. And one of the managers of one of the restaurants raised his hand, and he said, "John, how do I develop leaders?" And when he asked me the question, how he develops leaders, I said to him, "Find potential leaders." And he sat down. And he thought about it for a moment. He stood right back, and he raised his hand again and said, "Well, how do I find potential leaders?" Because what he realized there was, when he said, "How do you develop leaders?" the greatest way to develop leaders is find potentially good leaders. But the real question is not how do you develop leaders, the question is how do you find potentially good leaders? If you're going to develop a leadership team, how do you find the right people to put them on the right team? Or as Jim Collins would say, you gotta put the right people on the bus. How do you get the right people on the team? How do you find and attract leaders? Now, let's stop here for a moment, because this is a great question. Because the finding and the gathering of leaders is not easy. In fact, let me share with you, 2 or 3 reasons why it's difficult to develop and to attract leaders to you. Number 1, leaders are hard to find. They're hard to find. If Malaysia is anything like anywhere else I've ever been, Malaysia has a lot more followers than they do leaders. Is that not true? I've never gone to a company and they said, "John, you really, please come to our company immediately. We need to talk to you." And I've never rushed into a company where they've sat down and said, "We have a problem." What's your problem? "We have too many great leaders in this organization." Oh my goodness, we just have leaders everywhere. Can you thin some of them out for us? I've never known a nation that had too many great leaders. I've never known a company that had too many great leaders. I've never known an organization that had too many great leaders. There's always a shortage of leaders. Why? Because there aren't very many leaders. They're hard to find. There are 100 followers that you can find for every leader. In the States, what we share with them is, I say, eagles are hard to find because eagles don't flock. You just don't look up in the sky and say, "Oh my goodness, there are thousands of eagles up there. Look, just eagles everywhere you turn, another eagle. Oh my, I went down to the park and the park was filled with eagles today." Pigeons flock. Somebody told me one time, they said, "John, I can't believe what you say." I say, "You'd be more impressed if you knew what I didn't say." Eagles don't flock. They're hard to find. You have to find a leader one at a time. When I fly into do conferences, a lot of times the people who are picking me up at the airport, they don't know me. They've maybe never heard me or never seen me, maybe never heard of me. But they have the assignment of picking me up at the airport. And what I've noticed is there's 2 kinds of people that pick me up at the airport. One kind of person picks me up at the airport, what they do is they stand outside of the security area, wherever it is, and they've got a big card, and on it they put my name, like John Maxwell. And so maybe they're talking to a friend, but they're standing out somewhere, and they've got they got this card in the area, and they're basically saying, "Get off the plane, get through security, look at the card, read it, come over and introduce yourself, and I'll take you where you need to go." Basically, they put all the responsibility of me finding them on my shoulders. That's okay. Most of the time, I go up to them, introduce myself. Once in a while, I want to have fun. I just walk right on by, take a taxi to my hotel, and scare them. And when they find me, I say, "Hi, my name's John. I'm your friend." Well, one person, they put my name on it, and they basically say, find me, find me. Now, the other kind of person, what they do, they're different. What they do is when they have to pick me up at the airport, what they do is they get one of my books, and they go back to the back of the book where my picture is. Hopefully it's one of my newer books. And so what they're doing is they're standing by the security area, and they got my picture in front of them, and they're going like this. And then they go, you're John Maxwell. Well, yes, I am. How do you know? Well, I've got a picture of you. Now, you see, when I say that you have to develop a leadership team, there's one of two ways that you can do it. First of all, you can do like most people do, put advertisements and ads and things like that, and they basically stick up a sign and say, looking for leaders. And I've been standing all day and haven't found any yet. Or you can say, oh, no. If I'm going to develop a leadership team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a picture of what a leader looks like. Oh, my goodness. Oh, there's a leader. You see, the reason we miss opportunity, we all miss opportunity, do we not? How many of you have missed opportunity at least one time in your life? Sure, thank you very much. You make me feel comfortable. Now, the reason that you and I miss opportunity, you know what? Do you know why we miss opportunity? We miss opportunity because we don't know what it looks like when it's coming to us. It passes us, we go, oh, I should have done that. I knew better. You see, we didn't have a picture of what it looked like when it was coming. So therefore, we miss it. Can I tell you something? If you don't have a picture of what a leader looks like, they'll pass you all the time. There'll be leaders all around you. Can I tell you something? You can be in a room with leaders and not even know it. So when I tell people to develop a leadership team, in fact, they'll come to me lots of times and they'll say, John, I want to develop a team of leaders. I'll say, oh, great. And they'll say, can you help me? I said, well, I'll be glad to help you. I say, first of all, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for leaders. Leaders. And, well, yeah, leaders. That's what I need leaders. That's what I am looking for leaders. Dead people or alive people? Let me do my best to draw for you maybe 4 or 5 pictures of what a leader looks like so that you know what they look like when they come. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to do a lot of it, but let me tell you something. If this is something, if you're trying to develop a leadership team, there's a book, the best book that you can get out of all those books is the book on the 21 qualities of a leader. The 21 qualities of a leader is 21 pictures. It's a photo album. It's 21 pictures of what a leader looks like. And you literally can go through that 21 qualities of a leader and write them on a piece of paper and study them so that when you interview people, you can check off of the 21 qualities how many they possess so you know what kind of a leader potential that you're getting. So that's the best book as far as developing a leadership team. Okay, now, so it's a photo album, it's a picture album. Now, let me give you 4 or 5 pictures of what a leader looks like. And the first one I'm going to give you is the most important. This one, I guarantee you, is found in every leader that you will ever bring on your team. Here we go. Number 1, leaders have the ability to make things happen. You say, John, what do you mean they have the ability to make things happen? Very simple. It's very simple. No matter what job you give them, no matter what task they have, they always do it and do it well, and they always bring it home. There are some people in life that they know what happened. There are some people that don't know what happened. Do you know what I'm talking about? Are there not some people, you can give them a job and you don't even need to worry about it. You know they'll bring it home. They'll get it done. Isn't that true? Aren't there other people, you give them a job and you have to keep watching and asking and following up and making sure it gets done and sending out emails and memos because you know they don't have the ability to bring it home. Are you with me? So when you're looking for a leader, Jack Welch calls it getting out of the pile. What he basically says is in any company, in any organization, there's a pile of people, and the people that get out of the pile and distinguish themselves are the people that have the ability to get the job done. In other words, they can bring it home. Now, here's why that's important as a leader. If you can't deliver the goods, if you can't bring it home for yourself, you'll never be able to bring it home for anyone else. In other words, you can't transfer what you don't have. So therefore, if you can bring it home yourself, then there's potential you can help others bring it home also. But if you can't deliver the goods yourself, there's no shot at you ever being able to teach and train others how to deliver the goods. And here's why. We teach what we know, but we reproduce what we are. And so therefore, I can't reproduce other leaders. I can't reproduce other producers unless I can produce myself. So when I'm looking for a leader, the first thing I'm looking for is, do I have somebody on my team that they absolutely have the ability that when you give them a job, they not only get the job done, but they do it with excellence. They not only get it done on time, but they get it done before time. They always do more than you ever expected. They always bring it home. They are totally dependable. They are totally trustworthy. And basically, whatever you give them, you can let it go mentally because you know they're going to bring it back to you. In fact, when they bring it back to you, they're going to bring it back to you better than what you gave it to them yourself. That's the first quality I look for. In 25 years, I've only had 2 assistants. When I speak of assistants now, I'm talking about people who literally run my life. My assistant, Linda, now was mentored by my first assistant, who was Barbara. And when I say they run my life, I say they run my life. You say, what do you mean they run your life? They do everything. I mean, they do my travel schedule. They do my family, my wife, Margaret, and I. They do all my travel schedule. They do all my banking. They do all my financial stuff. They do everything. You're listening today to a guy who does very little. And is proud of it. In fact, people all the time, they say, well, I'm so busy. I just have so many things to do. And I say, well, I don't have that problem because I can only do 4 things. And see, when you're worthless in most areas, it's just wonderful because people don't want you. You know what I'm saying? They'll say, when they say, we want you to be on our board. I said, no, you don't want me to be on your board. I'm a terrible board member. I go to sleep during board meetings and I ask stupid questions and I'm just a terrible board member. And then they don't let you on the board and then that frees you up. Are you with me? So you say, I only do 4 things. And my assistants, they do everything. They do everything. I mean, on this trip, I never did it. I mean, I basically said, these are the countries I'm going to. They sat down, worked out my time schedule, figured out the hotels, figured out all the things. I mean, I got emails from my assistant, Linda, today, and she, on a couple things, because I have to meet the Prime Minister tomorrow in Thailand. They had to change some of my schedule. She handled it all. I haven't talked to anybody. I don't do it. They just every day get me up and wake me up and give me breakfast. And then point me in a certain direction and say, don't come home until you've done these 4 things. Well, when I was training my first assistant, Barbara, I was in the office with her one day and I said, Barbara, I need the phone number. And I gave her the name of a person I needed a phone number that I didn't have the phone number with. And probably, I don't know, just a couple of minutes later she came in and she said, I can't find the phone number. And I said, you couldn't find it? She said, no, I couldn't find it. I said, well, I'll tell you what, Barbara. Grab a chair and pull up right beside me here at the desk and sit here with me for a moment. So she did, and she said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to find the phone number. Obviously, you couldn't, so I will. So for the next 45 minutes, I called everybody I know, just kept working, you know how you do, keep doing it, and finally I got the number. 45 minutes later, I got the phone number, so I put the person's name down and I wrote the phone number and I handed it to her. I said, now, Barbara, go back in your office, then come into the office and say, John, I've got the phone number. And then I looked at her and I said, Barbara, never again when I ask you to do something, come to me without delivering it. It's a requirement. If you're going to be in my inner circle, I don't accept excuses. I don't accept anything except bring home the goods. What Barbara would tell you is that day her life was changed. She realized that she was going to work not for somebody, because nobody works for me. They work with me. We're all partners. But she realized that that day I accept nothing but deliver every time. I deliver every time. Expect you to deliver every time. Because if you can bring it home for yourself, then you can train others to bring it home. What I have discovered is those who can't reproduce other people who can't, until you have a whole bunch of people who can't. And then you wonder why you're not succeeding in life. I love this. I'm going to agree this. This is so fun. The insurance companies compiled together a list of people's excuses when they got into automobile accidents. And I just love these. You talk about excuses. By the way, it's easier to go from failure to success than it is from excuses to success. I've never known a person who makes excuses who was ever successful. As soon as they go around if and can't and will and won't and haven't and shouldn't, and as soon as they start ifing and butting, I know we're in trouble. So the insurance company, they came out, and I love this. These are explanations for automobile accidents, such as there's one. As I reached an intersection, a hedge sprang up, obscuring my view. That happens all the time, those hedges that just spring right up on you. An invisible car came out of nowhere, struck my car and vanished. Those invisible cars will do it to you every time. The telephone pole was approaching fast. I hate it when those telephone poles start moving around on you. The telephone pole was approaching fast, and I attempted to swerve out of its path, and it struck my front end. I love this one. I was on my way to the doctor's with rear end trouble when my universal joint gave way, causing me to have an accident. To avoid hitting the bumper of the car in front, I struck the pedestrian. I was coming home, pulled into the wrong driveway, and hit a tree I do not have. The pedestrian had no idea which direction to run, so I ran over him. One more. I pulled away at the side of the road, glanced at my mother-in-law, and headed over the embankment. Now, if you're looking for leaders, the first thing you look for is, does this person have the ability to get the job done? That's absolutely essential to your success and my success. Number two, here's the second thing I've observed. Leaders see and seize opportunities. Leaders have the ability to see opportunity when others don't see it, and they have the initiative to seize opportunity when others stand at the side. So therefore, when I'm looking for a leader, I look for a person that can find opportunities. And I look for a person not only who can find those opportunities, but for a person who can go out and seize those opportunities. I often go shopping with my wife, Margaret. And one of the reasons I do so is because she shops very quickly. She shops more like a man. I mean, she doesn't have to go in and touch everything and feel everything and hold it and do kumbaya. And one day I said, Margaret, I don't mind shopping with you, because she walks into a store, and I mean, in 5 minutes, she's either got it or she's out. I thought, this is good. And one day I said, Margaret, how can you do this? And she told me, she said, John, she said, you notice how some evenings at the house where I spend time looking through catalogs? I said, yeah. She said, well, what I'm doing is I'm getting a picture of what I want. And she said, when I find what I want, now she says, when I go to a store, I know what I'm looking for. I already have researched, I already checked out consumer products. And she said, when I go in, I already know she said, I don't have to go around and look at everything. She said, I'm already focused. I know what I'm going for. And the day that she said that to me, I thought to myself, this is what a leader understands what they're looking for. A leader, here's the way this works with leaders. Leaders see things before others see things. This is a fact. They're very quick to see something. In fact, other people are still looking around in the room and they're saying, well, don't you see it? See, potential leaders see before others see, and potential leaders, they see further than others see. They not only see it first, they see it further. They see it in its breadth, in its size, and its largeness. And so they see it first, and there's a tremendous advantage if you can see it first. So I'm looking around and I'm saying, who is always in my group of 10 people, if this is my leadership team, I'm asking myself, which one on this team is seeing it quickest? Who's seeing it first? Because that's the sign of a leader. I mean, some people, is it true, on your team, they never see it. But now, let me tell you the advantage of seeing things first. If you see it first, you can go after it first. Now, let me explain it this way. In the 100-meter dash, I just want to go on record today and tell you that in the Olympics, if they would allow me, I could win the gold medal. I mean, look at this body. You can just tell. You can tell this body is made for speed. I could win a 100-meter race if they just allowed me to do one thing. Just one thing. If they would give me a 10-second head start. I could get this fat body. Yes, I could. If they gave me a 10-second head start, I could win the race. Not because I'm the fastest, but because I got 10 seconds head start on the fastest person in the world. You see, I don't need to have, listen, you don't need to be the fastest person in the world, you just need to be the first. And the moment that you understand that, and you begin to look around and you begin to say, who's always picking it up first? Who's catching on the quickest? Who sees it? Who's always coming first and saying, I got an idea. Hey, let's try this. Whoever that person is, they are a potential leader. Okay, how do we find leaders? They make things happen. Secondly, they see and seize opportunities first. Number 3 is that they add value to the people around them. One of the ways that you can see a leader and pick one out is that they are making everybody around them better. So look on your team and say, who on this team is adding value the most to the other people on the team? Whoever that person is, they're the leader. Now, there are 4 kinds of people on earth. I told you earlier there were 2, the lifters and the leaners, remember? The elevator principle and the winning with people. There are really 4. There are adders, subtractors, multipliers, and dividers. Yeah, it's just old math. There are people that add to your life. They add a little value. There are people who subtract from your life. They take a little air from you. There are some people who multiply. Now that's, multiply. Hello. Now you're into leadership. They multiply value, and there are other people, they divide. I mean, they just absolutely divide you. They divide the team. Their whole goal is to divide everything. It's their spiritual gift. So I'm looking on my team. Again, I'm looking on my team, and I'm asking myself a very simple question. The question is, who on this team is adding value to others? I've just looked at them and say, okay, who's adding value to me? Who's adding value to others? And let me give you something. I very seldom give in conferences, but I think because you're an outstanding audience. You know you're above average, do you not? You understand that, don't you? I had to come all the way to Malaysia to find an above average audience. So you can look at your neighbor right now and say, you're good. Go ahead and tell them that. You're good. Tell them that. You're good. You're good. All right. Look right back at him and say, not that good. Not that good. Let me share with you what I call the 5 I's that add value. The first I is inspiration. Look on your team and ask yourself, who lifts the morale of the other players on the team? In other words, who inspires others? Who inspires me? Who lifts my morale? The second I is information. Who on the team is always giving me important information that helps me as a leader? Who's telling me things that I need to know to lead better? Who's the person that just absolutely is the one who's informed? They know, and they tell me, they tell the other team members. The third I is ideas. Who is it on the team that comes up with the best ideas? Who is it that when I throw an idea out, they're always making it better? Now, this is one of the values of teamwork. One of the things I teach is that if you really want to develop a good team, you need to develop what I call a thinking team. I have a thinking team of 8 people that are very creative, and we sit together every 3 months, and we spend a half a day just thinking about how we're going to write books and what we're going to say and what we're going to do and how we're going to solve problems. And they're great. And what I've learned is that none of us is as smart as all of us. And some of my best thinking has been done by others. And so therefore I get my thinking team around me. Now, this is the idea question, this is the third I. And so I look at my team and I ask myself, okay, who is it that when I throw an idea out at them, they give me a better idea back? Because whoever it is, they're a good thinker. They're going to lead in the area of ideas, because the most precious commodity in life is not money, it's not time, it's ideas. This afternoon, if I have a chance, I'm going to talk to you about how to generate more ideas. Well, I'll do it right. Let me do it here. Here's the way this works. To have a great thought, you have to have a lot of good thoughts. Great thoughts aren't born in a vacuum. Great thoughts are a result of several good thoughts. It takes a lot of good thoughts to come up with one great thought. So the building of a good idea, or the building of a great idea or a great thought, is based upon your ability to have a team that is giving you a lot of good thoughts. So what you need to do as a leader is you need to begin to be what I call an idea generator. That's what I am. I'm an idea generator. I'm a thought generator. So I sit down with my team all the time, and I share with them something I'm thinking about, and then I ask them, I say, okay, think about it for a moment and help me make it better. And we'll spend a couple of hours, and they make it better. And I have constantly done that. For example, the last 10 books I've written, I've only chosen the title of one of them. Now, I chose the title for all of them. But when I took it to my thinking team, I'd say, here's the book I'm writing right now, and here's the title I think. They always tell me the same thing. They say, oh, that's good. And then they start talking. And they start bubbling up good ideas until they give me a better idea back than what I gave them. And see, it doesn't matter to me. You see, the best idea always wins. Don't make the mistake because you own a company or because you're the leader, you think everything ought to be yours. Can I tell you something? If every thought is yours, every idea is yours, every initiative is yours, can I tell you something? You have a lousy team around you. Outside of having a worthless team and being ineffective, there's no problem with your life. So it's no compliment when I'm the guy that always thinks the ideas. Can I tell you, in fact, somebody says, well, how do I know I have a bad team? I tell you how you know you have a bad team. You get your team together and you give them you throw out an idea and they don't make it any better. Can I tell you something? If I've got a team that's not making me better, I don't need that team. I need to go make me a new team. I got to need to find a team. Because when I throw out the ideas, now here's how this works. What's your name? Yeah. Michelle? Hi, my name's John. I'm your friend. Now, here's the way this works, Michelle. Are you ready? Let's say I have a good idea, and let's say you have a different good idea, okay? But Michelle, I don't share my good idea with you, and you don't share your good idea with me. In other words, you keep your good idea to yourself, I keep my good idea to myself. Now, here's the question, Michelle. If I don't give you my good idea, and you don't give me your good idea, how many good ideas do you have, Michelle? One. That's exactly. It's not a trick question. That's right. It's just one. That's good. I looked at the whole front row and I felt you would be the strongest in math. Okay. That's good, Michelle. You're doing good. Now let's go again. Let's go ahead. Remember, my name's John. I'm your friend. Michelle, now I have a good idea and you have a good idea, but this time you sit down and say, John, here's my idea, and you share it with me. And I say, oh, I like that. And then I say, well, Michelle, I've got an idea, and I share my idea with you. Now, you shared your idea with me, I shared my idea with you. Now, Michelle, how many good ideas do you have? 2. Oh, you are so quick. See, the guy on your left, he's going, let me show it. He is. He's not either. Now, Michelle, you just doubled your ideas, not because you got better. You just doubled your ideas because you included me, and I included you. That's why I say teamwork makes the dream work. But, Michelle, it really is 2, but it can be more than 2. Because when you share with me your good idea, and I share with you my good idea, a lot of times out of 2 good ideas comes an entirely different idea. Isn't that true? It's called synergy. And what happens is, if we all start sharing good ideas, we get 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 good ideas, and out of that, all of a sudden comes a great idea, because all of a sudden you start linking this good idea with this good idea and pulling this one in here, and you start lining up about 4 or 5 good ideas, and all of a sudden you've got a great idea. Now, did you just become smart? No. You understood the value of developing a team and getting their input and sharing your input and working together, because, again, teamwork makes the dream work. So when I'm looking for a leader, I go to Michelle, because she has good ideas. And I say, okay, if they inspire me and they lift morale, if they inform me and tell me things I need to know, and if they have ideas so they make my thinking better than it is, the 4th I, some of you were worried. You thought I forgot my lecture, didn't you? You said, oh, there are 2 more I's. Oh, it's about lunchtime, and oh my God, I don't think I can eat my lunch if I don't get those last 2 I's. You are wonderful. You just are good. You're just good. The 4th I is initiative. When I'm looking for a leader, I'm looking for someone who is self-motivated. Who on the team just does it on their own. I don't have to ask them. I don't have to pump them. I don't have to prod them. I don't have to beg them. I don't have to threaten them. They just have initiative. And the 5th I is increase. Who is it on the team that just makes things better? They just make things better. They have the ability just to increase the entire team. The 4th picture I have of a leader, when I'm looking for a leader, is I ask myself, of my team, who's the biggest influencer? We've already talked about the fact that leadership is influence, so I'm always asking myself, Who is the best influencer? Because whoever that influencer is, whoever that person is, they're the person who, what they say, what they do, what their behavior is, they're going to influence the people that are around them. And number 5. 5 pictures is all I can give you today. The 5th picture of a person that I look to as a leader is I always look for the person, and I ask myself this question: do they possess an uncommon great attitude? Because leadership is tough. And there are going to be a lot of dark days if you're leading. There are going to be a lot of problems. There are going to be a lot of tough issues. And what I look for is a person that in the dark times has a great attitude. They understand that their attitude will determine their altitude. And so therefore, when everyone else is discouraged, they're encouraged. It's not that they're not aware of the issue, but they just have a persistence in their attitude. They just have a positiveness that they just keep on keeping on. They're like my college roommate who one time told me, he said, "John, I'm never down." I said, "What do you mean you're never down? Everybody's down." He said, "I'm never down." He said, "I'm either up or getting up." And that's what I'm talking about. Great leaders, when everyone else gives up and they have this incredible great attitude. Now, to develop your leadership team, I shared with you that leaders are hard to find. So I gave you some pictures of what to look like in a leader. Now, for the 21 pictures, if you get the book, The 21 Qualities of a Leader, you're going to get 21 pictures of what a leader looks like. Now, what you do is, when you get all those pictures, you line them up on a paper, and when you're looking for leaders, after a while you'll have them memorized. You'll say, okay, does that person have this quality? Do they have that quality? Because the more qualities you can find in an individual, the better potential leader you have just picked. Leaders are hard to find. Let me tell you something else about leaders. They're not only hard to find because there are so few of them, they're hard to gather. Once you find a leader, it's hard to get a leader to join your team, and there's a reason for that. It's not that they are hard to get along with. It's leaders aren't looking for jobs. I've never known a leader look for a job. I've never looked for a job in my life. I've got more jobs than I could ever do. I've got more opportunities than I could ever fulfill. Whenever you're a leader, to be honest with you, you're not sitting on the corner saying, "Boy, I hope somebody finds me. Whew, I'm a great leader. Can I be discovered by somebody today?" And when you find a leader, when they're hard together, what happens, you go up to a potential leader and say, "I'd like you to join my team." And can I tell you something? They don't just say, "Oh, thank God I can join your team. I've been waiting for a team to join. Oh, you're an answer to prayer." No. The first thing they say, "Well, I'd like you to join my team." Leaders are always recruiting. And if you say, "Well, I want you to join my team," you know what? Leaders, they don't just jump on and say, "Oh, wonderful, I'm on a team. They'll start asking questions. They'll say, "Where are you going? What you going to do? When are you going to get there? When are you coming back? Can I drive?" They're going to want to be in control. That's the very nature of who they are. They ask questions. They're hard to find. They're hard to gather. And let me just say one more thing in closing. They're hard to keep. Why are they hard to keep? Because they have opportunities all the time. They're restless. Leaders are restless by nature. And if you're not moving the team fast enough, they either want to run the team, or they're going to go find another team, or they're going to make their own team. Now, that doesn't make them wrong. That doesn't make them bad. It just makes them who they are. Leaders are unique. And the reason I say that to you is I'm trying to help you again to get a picture so that when you see a potential leader coming toward you, you can immediately recognize them and you can immediately start recruiting them, because there are pictures that will help you know. Just like in the 17 qualities of a team player, those are 17 pictures of what does a team person look like. If you're wanting to develop a good team member, you got to get those pictures of what does a good team person look like. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you learning something? Are you learning something, huh? Okay. How many of you think now you kind of know a little bit more what a leader looks like? You raise your hand, huh? You kind of look like, okay, now let me just do me another favor. Just kind of look around you right now, huh? Look around you. Do you see anybody around you that you ought to steal? Huh? See? Okay, it's about 10 minutes to 1, okay? And I'm getting hungry. Are you getting hungry? Okay. Good boy. I major. One of my gifts is lunch. How many of you are morning people? You know what I mean by morning people? You do your best work in the morning. How many of you are morning people? Okay. How many of you are night people? You do your best work at night. Right. How many of you are like me? You're not really good in the morning. You're not really good at night. But you excel at lunch. You just say, that's me. Okay. So I'm going to go to lunch. You're going to go to lunch. Roger, probably at 2 o'clock. It gives them about an hour and 10 minutes. Do you think that's fair? Okay. So our good looking MC says 2 o'clock. Be back here. Now here's what I'm going to do. At 1:40, are you with me? I'm going to be sitting right there at that table. And if you've got books, you bring your books together. You buy the stack. I'll sign 2 of your books out of your stack. I'll sign books from 1:45 to 2 o'clock. Go have a good lunch. Take care. Have a good time. Thank you very, very much. You may be seated. Did you have a good lunch? Okay, you ready to learn? Okay, I'm ready to teach also. We've talked about the fact that success is 3 things: knowing my purpose in life, growing to my maximum potential, and sowing seeds that benefit others. We've talked about the fact that people that are successful get along with people, they relate well with others. And we talked about the fact that people that are successful develop teams. They know how to take leaders and develop a leadership team and bring people around them, because teamwork makes the dream work. The third thing that successful people do well deals with the attitude. Successful people have an incredible attitude, especially about adversity and difficulties in life. They do not allow their attitude to control their life. They control their attitude. What they discovered is, it's not what happens to me, it's what happens in me that counts. I shared with you earlier that I write 3 books at a time. I just finished, in fact, I literally just finished before I came on this trip, a manuscript of a book, a leadership book that'll come out in January. It's called The 360-Degree Leader. And it's a book about how to lead from the middle of the pack. In fact, I almost called the book Leading from the Middle of the Pack. In fact, the subtitle was almost Follow Me, I'm Right Behind You. And it's a book about how to lead up, how to lead across, and how to lead down. Another book that I'm writing on this trip while I'm here is a book on attitude. Now, I am a motivational teacher, not a motivational speaker. There's a difference. A motivational speaker makes you feel good, but the next day you're not sure why. Yeah, you're just going around saying, I feel good. You know what I mean? I feel good. I'm not sure why I feel good, but I feel good. Well, I'm a motivational teacher. I teach principles that the next day you can apply. The stuff that I'm giving you today, you can apply tomorrow to your own business, to your life. Isn't that true? And so I'm a motivational teacher. A motivational speaker will tell you that attitude is everything. In fact, if you hear them speak, they'll say, attitude is everything. If you just have a great attitude, if you can think it, you can have it. If you can believe it, you can dream it and hope. And I'm here to tell you, attitude is not everything. I've known a lot of people who have a great attitude, but they are not successful. For example, attitude will not replace competence. In other words, if you're incompetent, and you can't do something very well, You can have the greatest attitude, but you still won't succeed. Are you with me? If I tell you that I want to be a great singer, so I have an attitude, I have a great attitude, I'm going to be a great singer, but I have a poor voice, it's not going to help because I have a good attitude while I'm singing. It isn't going to help me. And so attitude isn't everything, but it is the difference maker. It's the difference maker. Let me explain. I've got Michelle right here. What's your name? Right beside her. Alicia? Did I get that right? Alicia? Okay. So I have Alicia and Michelle, and they're both coming to me, and they're both applying for a job. And as I look at Alicia and I look at Michelle, I mean, their resumes are the same, their experience is good, they've got a good education, they've got a good track record. Alicia and Michelle, I mean, they look to me like they're just, it looks like I could hire either one of them and be okay because they both seem to be competent, okay. But there's one difference. Let's say Alicia has a great attitude and Michelle has a bad attitude. Now, if they're equal in everything else and Michelle has a bad attitude and Alicia has a good attitude, who am I going to hire, Alicia or Michelle? Talk to me. I'm going to hire Alicia, aren't I? Because she has a good attitude. You see, let me tell you something. It's the difference maker. All things being equal, your attitude makes the difference. Now, what I've discovered is this. I've discovered that successful people have an incredible attitude. They have a great attitude about life. They have a great attitude about their family. They have a great attitude about what they're doing, their business. They just have a great attitude, especially in the area of difficulties. Anybody can have a good attitude when they're having a good day, but can you have a good attitude when you're having a bad day? That's why I write books. I wrote a book a book that has been highly successful that I wrote is a book called Failing Forward. I referred to it earlier today. It's a book on how to fail correctly. Because we all fail. I fail, you fail, everybody fails. Huh? Isn't that true? How many of you, I've already asked the question once, I'm going to ask you, how many of you failed at least one time, okay? In fact, look at your neighbor and tell them, say, you're going to mess up. Go ahead and tell them. You're going to mess up. Oh, okay. Come on. Come back here. Some of you are not only telling the person they're going to mess up, you're telling them how they've messed up. And you know this. Okay. I'm going to mess up. You're going to mess up. We all mess up. Isn't that true, huh? So that's not the issue. The issue is not are you going to mess up. The issue is are you going to fail correctly? I was on one of the main talk shows in the United States on TV as a talk show called Good Morning America. And I was on Good Morning America. They were interviewing me with the book on failure, on Failing Forward. And they asked me, they said, John, where did you do the research on this book? And I laughed. I said, it's the only book I've ever written that I didn't have to do any research on. All I did was think of all the stupid things I've done in my life. And I wrote the book. In fact, I remember when I wrote the book, Margaret and I were going on a vacation, and we were going to go see the fjords of Norway. And so about a week before we left on vacation, I found out that it was a 2-week cruise on a ship to see the fjords of Norway. And I said, Margaret, it seems like a long time to see the fjords. Yeah. I mean, can we not go for 2 days and take pictures? But I've been successfully married for 36 years, so we took that 2-week vacation to see the fjords of Norway. But I made a deal with her. We were always making deals, and the deal was that I would go on the vacation for 2 weeks. If while I was on vacation, she'd let me write a book, so at least I could do something profitable. While it's on vacation. And she said, sure. She said, you can do that. And so that was no problem. So we got a suite right at the front with all the windows so that when we go down these canyons, these river and water canyons, we could see the fjords of Norway. And so I'd sit up there up front, and I write on a legal pad. I just do handwriting. So I'm writing a book, and I'd say, oh, Margaret, look. There's a fjord. Oh, that's something, isn't it? That's some fjord, isn't it, huh? I'd write some more. Oh, honey. Oop. There's another fjord. Yeah. That fjord looks like that fjord. And I would write my book. At the end of 2 weeks, I finished the book. I'd finished the book. And what I do is, when I write, I throw the pages at Margaret, and she reads them, and then she corrects them and makes them like they should be. And so we're going off the ship, and she looked at me. She said, "Oh, John," she said, "I love the Failing Forward book. This is a great book." I said, "Well, thank you, babe. Thanks a lot." I said, "What did you like about it?" Oh, she said, "What I liked about it is, in all the failure lessons that you taught, you just gave personal examples of all the times you've messed up and failed." And she said, "I just think it's just wonderful." She said, "There's only one problem." I said, "What's the problem?" She said, "You didn't get all of your failure stories in the book." She said, "I think you ought to do a series of books on failure." She said, "It's your spiritual gift. You ought to do a 101, 201, 301, 401. She said, "You've got at least 6 failure books in you." Here's what I've discovered. When you and I fail, we're going to have one of 2 responses. We're either going to learn from the failure, or we're going to leave the failure. In other words, when I fail, when you fail, we're either going to hang around that failure long enough to learn something from it, or we're going to run away from that failure as quick as we can because it embarrasses us, and we're going to leave from it. Here's what I've discovered. If you leave your failure, you'll never learn from your failure. And if you learn from your failure, you'll never have to leave your failure. The reason we leave is because we're embarrassed. When people are embarrassed about anything, they want to get away from it as quickly as they possibly can. I understand that. So what happens is if we fall, if I fall flat on my face, what I do is I very quickly get up and I fasten my coat and I look around and say, "Nobody saw me, nobody saw me, nobody saw me." And everybody in the room says, "Did you see John fall flat on his face?" In the book on Failing Forward, I teach you 15 ways to fail successfully. One of the things I teach is when you fall down, while you're down there, clean up the floor. You don't get down there every day. I mean, pick up the toys. There's all kinds of things you can do while you're down there. In the States, I don't know if, again, all I can speak is out of my own experience. In the States, we have an expression, and I'll give it to you, and I'll see if you have it in Malaysia. In the States, we have an expression that says, "Experience is the best teacher." Have you ever heard that? Okay, so do you say it here? You're just like us. And when they'll come, they'll say, "Well, experience is the best teacher. Experience is the best teacher." Can I tell you something? Experience isn't the best teacher. Never has been, never will be. If experience was the best teacher, then as people got older, they'd get better. And I know a whole lot of people getting older, and they're not getting better. Many times in the States, they'll say things like, "Well, give them time, they'll mature. They'll mature, just give them some time, they'll mature." I've given people a lot of time. Some mature, some don't mature. I found out a long time ago, maturity doesn't always come with age. Sometimes age comes alone. Huh? So when somebody says experience is the best teacher, I always go to them and say, "No, it's not. Evaluated experience is the best teacher." It's not what we experience, it's how we evaluate it. In other words, we have to look at what we're going through and what has happened to us. We have to look at our failures and say, "Okay, what do I learn from this? How can this make me better?" Now, what I've discovered is people that are highly successful, they have the ability to evaluate experience. They have the ability to evaluate failure. In my book, Thinking for a Change, I talk about 11 thinking skills of successful people. Basically, what I say in the book, Thinking for a Change, is that the major difference between successful and unsuccessful people is how they think. That is a truth. The major difference. If I could do one thing for you, I would walk off of this platform today and I would come down to you and I would share with you and I would teach you how to think correctly. Because people that think correctly will be much more successful than people that don't. The greatest gap between successful and unsuccessful people is how people think. And one of the things that successful people do very well is they engage in what I call reflective thinking. And reflective thinking turns experience into insight. It's where we get wisdom. And reflective thinking has the ability, we stop and we pause and we think through it until we get insight out of the experience that we've possibly had. And people that handle failure correctly, they'll talk very candidly about their failures. They're going to say, boy, back in 2002, let me tell you, I failed in this area of my business, or maybe my business went bankrupt. They'll talk very candidly about their failure, but they'll talk just as candidly about what they learned from that failure. Because people that consistently fail do not consistently fail in different areas. They consistently fail because they keep repeating the same failure over and over and over again. And successful people, they have an uncommon attitude about failure and difficulties and disappointments, and they have the ability to get back up and to understand that failure is not final and failure is not fatal. They have the ability not to take themselves so serious. Here's what I've discovered. The more insecure a person is, the more they fear failure. Fear of failure is a sign of a highly insecure person. Insecure people don't attempt things because they're so afraid that they might fail, and so they kind of back off and they say, well, I'm not going to try that. And basically what they do is they say, I would rather not try something and then, quote, not fail than to try something and fail. What I've discovered about successful people is successful people fail a lot more than unsuccessful people. Because they try things a lot more. They attempt more. They risk more. They're not afraid to engage in life. They're not afraid to step out. I saw an expression one time on a wall. It says, don't walk, you might fall. Don't look, you might see. And I went over and wrote on the bottom, don't live, you might die. Now, here's what I love about attitude. One of the reasons I like to teach on the attitude, one of the reasons I like to write books on it, is because your attitude and my attitude is a choice. It's a choice. There are a lot of things in life we didn't choose. I didn't choose where I was born. I didn't choose who my parents would be. There are a lot of things in life that I didn't choose. A lot of things you didn't. I didn't choose my physical looks. And there are things you didn't choose. A lot of things we didn't choose. But let me tell you something what I love about attitude, which is the difference maker. Everyone here has chosen the attitude they have. Now you say, John, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is attitude is a choice. Now what's interesting is, in the States, I have to do a lot of teaching on this because a lot of people in the States think that their attitude was given to them by someone else. And I'll say, well, I mean, you'd have a bad attitude too if you had to live with who I live with. Well, yeah, well, if you would, I mean, I came through poverty, and they think somehow that their attitude was given to them by someone else. And I just want you to know, your attitude wasn't given to you by anybody. The attitude you have right now, whether it's a good one or a bad one, a positive or a negative one, can I tell you something? The attitude that you have right now is an attitude that you have personally chosen. It's you. Therefore, I never feel sorry for somebody who has a bad attitude. Because if they have a bad attitude, I don't feel sorry for you. It's your choice. You can have any kind of attitude you want. I don't care. If you want to be a failure all your life, it's your choice. Go for it. Be the biggest failure we know. It's your choice. But I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. Since it is your choice, I'm not going to try to talk you out of a bad attitude. When our daughter Elizabeth, who's a beautiful, beautiful mother now of 2, 28 years old, she used to think that she could control me with her attitude. So she would pout or she would act like, and I'd say, Sissy, I call her Sissy, her name's really Elizabeth, I'd say, Sissy, If you're going to have an attitude like this, go to your room and just shut the door so that you don't spread your gloom on everyone else. And when you put on a happy face, you can come back out. I may see you today, I may see you tomorrow, I may see you next week. It's your choice. Choose it. Margaret and I were doing a conference many years ago now, and we were doing a question and answer period. I'll never forget this. We're doing a Q&A. We're going back and forth with question and answer. And so one of the wives, there was not a big crowd, there were maybe 600 couples. And one of the wives looked at Margaret and she asked the question. She said, and I don't know, we were teaching leadership. I have no idea where the question comes from, but when you let people ask questions, you get some real weird questions. And the lady raised her hand. She said, "Does John make you happy?" Well, I kind of liked the question because I think I'm a wonderful husband. And so I thought, well, this will be nice. You know, sweetheart, go ahead and answer that question. And I'll never forget, Margaret looked right at her and she said, no. She said, "He doesn't make me happy." And I said, honey, explain what you mean by that. Have you ever asked somebody to explain what they meant? And so they explained what they meant, and when they finished explaining what they meant, you wish you wouldn't have asked them to. Because, I mean, it's like she was waiting for this question all of her life. And she looked right back, I'll never forget, she looked right back at the people and she said, I realized in the first 6 months of our marriage that he'd never make me happy. Now, I don't know if you have the gift of discernment, but we're going downhill very quickly. And then she said, because for the first 6 months of our marriage, that's what I expected. I expected him to make me happy. She said he had a business, and I was a school teacher, and I would come home and I'd say, well, boy, tonight we'll spend some time together. And he might say, you know what, I have a client I have to go see, or I'd have to go grade papers. And for the first 6 months, I kept saying, John will make me happy, 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 John will make me happy. And she said about 6 months in the marriage, she said, I realized something. The only person on this earth that can make me happy is me. And the moment I took responsibility for my own happiness, she said from that time on, and then she pointed to me, he has added immeasurably to my happiness. That was close. Now what's she saying? She is saying, I'm responsible for my own attitude. I know people that they think, well, if I could just leave this job and go to another job, I could get happy. If I could just move, I'd get happy. If I could just marry her or him, I could get happy. And I'm here to tell you that if you're not happy today where you are, you're not going to be happy where you're going. Attitude and happiness, that's an inside job. In fact, I love this expression, no matter where you are, there you are. And people that are successful have an incredible attitude about adversity and difficulties and about the darkness of the hour. And they come back. They come back. They have a tenaciousness. They have a persistence in their attitude. Now, I get about this time of the day, and all of a sudden I think all of the things I still want to teach you that I know that probably time's not going to let me teach. And while I was signing books over there today, all of a sudden it hit me. There's something I want to make sure that I teach you about leadership that I just don't want to miss. And so while I was signing books, I asked them to put this together over here, and they did. And I have no clue if I can really make this work or not. They told me all I had to do was write on it, so I'm going to assume that if this is an overhead and all I have to do is write on it, I want to teach you, I don't know, for 25 minutes. I want to teach you the 5 levels of leadership. Okay? And what I want you to do on a piece of paper, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to see if this works here. On a piece of paper, I want you to do this number. Just like that. Oh, this is good. That is the weirdest step I've ever seen in all my life. What I want you to do on a piece of paper, do this. Oh, now we are. They didn't tell me I had to do it sideways. Remember, I teach leadership. And I don't have a clue. Oh, but I'm happy. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the way I want it to look on your paper. Okay? Have you got that? Now, what I'm going to teach here is I'm going to teach you that in leadership and in influencing people, there are 5 levels that we go through. Now, I don't care whether you're in a corporation. I don't care if you're in government. It does not matter to me. It does not matter what your job is or what you're doing. What I have discovered in teaching people how to lead is that there are 5 levels of leadership. And I'm going to start on the bottom step, and I'm going to work my way up to the top step, okay? So on the first level of leadership, what I want you to do is, this is what I call the position level. The position level, okay? At level number 1, the key word is rights, R-I-G-H-T-S. At level number 1, people follow you because they have to. They don't have any choice. They have to follow you. Now, let's stop there just for a second, okay? When I teach leadership, no matter where I am, I have found that this is an amazing discovery to most people. Most people think that the position of leadership is the highest level of leadership. In other words, they think, well, when I get to be over people, or when I get this job, and I'm, in fact, I can always tell when a person doesn't understand leadership very well, because they'll come up to me and they'll say, hey, John, last week I became a leader. Now, when they tell me last week they became a leader, what they're really saying is last week I got a leadership job. You with me? And I always look at them and I say, no, you didn't become a leader last week, you just got a leadership job last week. I know a lot of people that have leadership jobs that aren't good leaders. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever had to follow somebody that was over you that wasn't a good leader? Raise your hand. Thank you very much. Oh, here we go. Huh? It's not much fun, is it, huh? You see, just because you have the job, or just because you have the title, or just because you have the position, doesn't mean that you're a good leader. And many people, they really are amazed because they think, okay, I've got this leadership job, so now people have to follow me. In fact, can I tell you something? If you have to remind people that you're the leader, you're not. Leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And the person with the greatest amount of influence at any given time, for any given reason, in any given group, is the leader of the pack. If you and I would just leave this arena right now and we go to some school, if the children were outside playing at recess, anytime you see children out on a playground, without talking to teachers or overseers at all, you and I could lean up against the fence, and in about 10 minutes we could pick out who the leaders were on the playground. Because a few kids are influencing all the rest of the kids. So when a person gets a job or a title or a position as a leader, the big mistake they make is that all of a sudden they're a leader. Let me tell you something. The position doesn't make the leader makes the position. And level number one is where we start. Now, there's nothing wrong with level number one as long as you and I both understand it's the beginning level of leadership. It's not the final, it's not the highest, it's not the best, it's the beginning level. It's where we all start. Nothing wrong with starting at level one unless we stay at level number one. Level number two. The second level of leadership is the permission level. At level number two, the permission level, the key word is relationships. At level number two, people follow us because they want to. Now notice, there's a major difference between level number one and level number two. In fact, to kind of help us distinguish that, let me just kind of do a little bit of this for a moment. At level number one, people follow you because they have to.